What's your favorite scary movie?
Pat from Pop Culture with Pat, here with director Chris Nash of the upcoming film In a Violent Nature. Great to meet you, Chris, and thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, not at all, Pat. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, yeah, excited to talk to you. I got to watch the film. I'm a huge horror fan myself, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to kind of start off by asking you, how did you come up with the legend of Johnny, and just how did the concept of Johnny evolve from that initial concept to what we see on the big screen?
Well, definitely, it's kind of a backwards way of doing it because originally I came up with the concept of the film itself of like just treating like shooting a slasher from the slasher's point of view, and then knowing that I wanted to set it in Northern Ontario's where I grew up, so a lot of just great woods and landscape to explore there. And from that, knowing all these elements, that's what I kind of built the legend out from. Trying to call back to, the industry in the area, what it would have been like, 50, 70, 100 years ago, and forestry was a big thing. So then finding all these other little offshoots into forestry, for instance, like, there's going to be wildfire fighters there. And then so I got like firefighters, I've got a whole bunch of nasty logging tools, and there's so much I can choose from. And that's where we kind of built the legend from of Johnny out from,
I say
was just everything that we had around.
you definitely had a lot to play with, and Johnny makes good use of those tools throughout the film for sure. Where the slasher has been around for for decades now, what were some of the biggest challenges for you in coming up with something that just was was different for audiences?
I think it's just the presentation that's different for me. Uh, Everything about it is so rooted in just slasher tropes and slasher lore that it was really for me just like, oh, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to like look at the wheel from a different angle.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's if anything is taken away from this for like any filmmakers coming up, it's just, yeah, just try to explore something from a different angle. Like even I look at like The Sopranos, that was there's so many mafia movies and stuff before that, but then it's like, well, what if we just like, what if all the not mafia stuff? What if we explore that, like all the family stuff, and then that's where The Sopranos came from. So
Yeah.
turning everything like 10 degrees from everything we're familiar with is just, I think, I wish more people would do that.
Yeah, I'll say there's definitely stuff in there familiar, but I like the approach. We don't have too many films where it's like you see it from the perspective of the killer's eyes and just not really having a soundtrack at all. You're just really immersed in like the nature aspect of it. There is some pretty gnarly kills in the film, and I'm sure like one of them for sure is going to be, getting talked about, quite a bit once the mass audiences get to see it. What was the most challenging death scene for you to film? And you don't have to go into like specifics, but I guess just the general scene.
The most challenging one was the one that's easiest when you look at it. It was a death that takes place, on a lake, and what we see looks fairly simple, but the original idea for that was so elaborate, and it was very much just me as a director being, look at me, I'm such a good director. Where originally we were, just a quick setup. Johnny, our slasher, is walking through the woods up against a lake. He sees some girls across the lake chatting at a dock. One of them gets into the water, starts swimming. Then, following Johnny, we see him go into the water. Um, and at that point, originally, we were supposed to follow Johnny right into the water. In my brain, I'm like, this will be a great shot. Well, we'll hide the cut, but we'll follow him into the water. We'll watch him walking along the lake bed, looking up, seeing like legs dangling from above, grabbing one of them, hooking it with his hook, and there'll be just a nice bloody battle, and then letting the body drift up and then exiting the lake on the other side. Uh, so like technically for our budget, technically impossible. But I'm like, we can do it. We can figure it away. We're scrappy. And then of course we had to make concessions. Like that's not going to happen. We needed so much prep has to take place. So then the idea was, okay, well, what if when Johnny goes into the water, the camera just stays hovering above the water and goes across the lake, and we end locked in on the two girls. It's as if we're following Johnny still, but he's under the water. And so we got all these different rigs. We had like this one rig on a jib arm attached to like a boat that was fastened, had this electromagnet to it, so we can treat it all in one take where Johnny walks up and then walks into the water, and then we hook up the camera to this jib arm on an electromagnet and start getting pulled across the lake by the boat. So many things we so many things we rented, so many people we hired, like just lifeguards and dive teams. And then Mother Nature said no and just started dumping rain on us for days. And everything just everything was working against us over and over and over again for this shot. We tried shooting this scene 3 different times.
Uh,
Never happened. And then it was like, we have no money to do what we wanted to do. What can we do? Let's just lock the camera off on the shore and let it play off in a very in a wide. And I watch it in the end and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the way to do it.
yeah,
This
so
was yeah.
you still came up with a creative way to kind of to get around that. But man, now you describing that, man, I would have loved to have, if you guys were able to get the shot, I would have loved to have seen that because that would have been a really cool, just to kind of follow him under the water, then pop
Yeah.
away. I
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, because and I guess like slight spoilers, guys, just as far as like someone popping up in the film. How did Lauren Marie Taylor get involved with the movie? I imagine that must have been really, cool for you, just having someone coming from like an iconic franchise like Friday the 13th. So how did that all happen?
Um, for the character that Lauren plays at the end of the film, we always wanted that to be somebody from the Friday series, um, but not in so much of a stunt casting way. We were hoping that it would be somebody that's, not recognized immediately. Um, like if we had King Hodder playing that character, it would have been just distracting where everyone is like, "Oh, that's King Hodder."
Yeah,
You know who he is, right? It would be a lot of boyfriends talking to their uncomfortable girlfriends on first date, hearing like, "You know who that guy is, right?" That
exactly.
that was like one of the original Jasons. Although he didn't start until like later in the series, but he's the one that everybody, yeah. So um, in order to spare partners that aren't nerds from all of that. We wanted something that was, an actor that was gonna um not immediately cause that distraction, but just be somebody that could deliver that performance. Um, and I think Lauren does it perfectly. Like I really love that performance. I love that scene. It's a lot to it is it's quite a long scene, and it's what anchors the film. So to put all that on Lauren's shoulders and have her deliver the way that she did is like such a gift to me.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it was like I said, it must have been amazing for you guys, but as a horror fan watching that, that was a a nice surprise for me to see pop up. Well, and Chris, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. It was great getting to talk to you about the film. I can't wait for audiences to get to check this out because it's already creating quite a buzz online and from the different festivals. And yeah, thank you so much and congratulations on the movie.
Thanks so much, Pat. Take care.
You're welcome.